yeah, I'm looking great. Oh, that's a little too much there. All right. Yes, hi. I'm Dr. Mia Luth, and it is 5:08 p.m. on March 5th, 2026. So, while I still have my voice going, it'll start fading out the longer I go. Yes, the Winnipeg Jets today play tonight. It's 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, my time, New York, USA. Uh, they're playing the Lightning, Tampa Bay. So I'm saying yes. I think being wide awake in the first period, and then wide awake through the second period, and then wide awake through the third period. Like, come on, guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's time to like get hungrier, just for your own sakes, guys. There, play for the Winnipeg Jets. Um, I sometimes, I listen to different. I purposefully sometimes will stay quiet, and there are people who seem to think that that's some sort of victory. And I have to disagree with you. When it comes to me, it's just because what I'm trying to do is find out the the whole big picture. All right, and trying to get as many different perspectives as I can. So sometimes I just sit and listen and watch and listen and learn and listen. And so I'm quiet for periods of time. Yeah, I know. I gotta fix this. I need my arm up here. Some something happened. Ah, fuck. Oh, pain. Hang on a sec. Oh god. I just moved the wrong way. Okay, let me readjust down here and. Yeah, I'm in pain a lot too, so I get a little grumpier than I like. I try not to, but it just happens sometimes. Anyway, yeah, something's going on with my shoulder. It's fibro up here, but like this one is having an issue, but I think that's mostly fibromyalgia. Ah, you see, like, hang on, my makeshift. I can't go to the urgent care people, by the way, because the local urgent care that I can get transportation to doesn't take my insurance. And I try to avoid the emergency room because that hospital might actually end up killing me. I avoid it at all costs. Anyway, so yes, I see my orthopedist, and there's a difference in the pain. I think possible impingement, but I also think it might be my rotator cuff because it like, yep, I'm barely touching it, and it hurts. So I've been trying to figure out like where to hold my arm so that it hurts less. Like me turning my head just like this hurts. Like my neck, this, I think it's a pinch because it clicks, and then down my back, and it's getting more and more painful. So anyway, like I said, I'm injured all the time. I've been living with this particular situation for decades. Okay. And, there were things when I first got diagnosed with fibromyalgia that people didn't know that they know now. Uh, People are, and I am kind of in a PSA kind of way, public service announcement, also saying just as a side topic, But I mean, it could affect some hockey people. Uh, there are movement disorders that are similar to Parkinson's disease that are not Parkinson's. So there's Parkinsonisms, and I have a movement disorder that is similar to Parkinson's, except it's got slightly different stages, which there's so few people. It's getting easier and easier to diagnose it. But yes, it took for freaking ever. Anyway, I, I'm, I'm kind of in a lot of pain, and I can't seem to get I'm trying to tie my hand up, and sometimes my shoulder feels more comfortable if I have my hand up here. Sometimes every time I move my neck, it hurts. Right. I can see myself not getting too much sleep this evening, which is good essentially because for me, 8 o'clock game ends. You know, I'll be up at least until midnight if I right try to make the Kenny and Rennie show, which often I do. Sometimes I just can't make it. I may not be asleep, but I might not be able to type. Sometimes I'm physically unable, like, to do anything. I just have to kind of lay there. Anyway, well, that's another reason I've been trying to figure out all the handicap things on here so I can speech to type and other sorts of things. Another thing to add to my list of things to do. But anyway, back to hockey. Uh, you know, in discussion about GMs and uh, you know fans and things like that, I know that there are a lot of fans who kind of like to think GM style. I know it's a business. The thing of it is though, you're not trading, you know, objects. You're not trading like inanimate things. Okay, you're not evaluating gadgets. No matter how hard anybody wants to try to look at it that way, that is just not the case. Real humans with real backgrounds and real personalities. And so I mentioned in the last video intangibles. Well, here's something that I kind of really, really started picking up on in the Winnipeg Sports Talk chat. Okay, a player to the spectator. All right, I'm going to say this. If I'm a coach, let's just say I'm a coach, hypothetically, and there are two guys who have similar strengths and they have similar time in the NHL, and I have to finalize the roster. Okay, but I can only finalize with so many people, so I have to pick. And the coaching staff, we have to choose between these two guys. All right. And this one guy, player A, has a pretty decent 200, you know, 200 length game, back and forth. All right. They're a 200 player, like that way, 200. All right. And so full ice player, and they have a pretty decent. All right. Now, this other guy, player B, okay, has comparable everything else that player A has, but doesn't have the best 200-foot game. All right, listen, spectators. I'm. It's kind of like an education thing, but it's also I'm trying to put a perspective that I don't see included in some of these chats. So I kind of can see what's missing. And maybe some of you know it, and we just don't discuss it in the chat. But I'm doing it here because it's a perspective that some of you might not have. Okay? As a coach, there are other things. So player A's got a good 200-foot game. And player B and player A are pretty much even Steven with all the other things that we're looking for. And, some of you might just automatically say, well, pick player A. He's got a better 200-foot game. However, player A, okay, is usually very quiet, sometimes gets chirpy with the players and the coaches. Okay, stays to himself, doesn't really like team activities. While on the other hand, player B likes team activities. It shows an enthusiasm to learn and to chip in and be a team guy. Shows enthusiasm when talking to people. He's, got a decent disposition and, has tried to socialize a little. Me, as a coach, would pick player B because player B can work on. That's what we know. Okay, well then player B needs to work on the 200-foot game. Probably got it in him. Oh, God, my shoulder. Hold on. I'm having pain. It's ridiculous. Oh. I can't seem to put my shoulder in a comfortable position, so. Put my arm down and see if that helps. That doesn't help either. Oh, God. Anyway, me as a coach, yes, player B. Because player B shows enthusiasm, shows a willingness to learn, shows a willingness to listen, is a little bit social. Okay? All right? He wants to chip in. And he's quite willing to work on his 200-foot game. To me as a coach with this team, the way it's set up and this roster, the way it's set up, okay? All right. The player B has more value to us than player A. So I'll just sort of succinctly put that in slightly different terms. Okay? Player B is enthusiastic, willing to learn, a little bit social. He shows up in a decent mood and is a very good listener. The only thing that player A does that's better than player B is has a better 200-foot game. Okay? But player B, though, is not very social. Seems a little cranky. Chirped at the assistant coaches when they tried to work with him on some things. Okay? Those are things that might just be part of their human personality and likely aren't going to change no matter what. Player B, on the other hand, is more than willing to really work on his 200-foot game. For this team, player B has more value than player A. However, another team, right, might not give a shit and it's just hurting for somebody who has a good 200-foot game. And that that team is going to value player A higher. Valuation is team by team, and it is very objective, and it changes all the time. So what people see with their eyes is, oh, here's another thing. Let's just say you got a natural goal scoring power forward. Okay, big producer, and is expected to, let's just say, 40 points every season, no matter what. And they show that throughout their, let's just say they're already in the NHL and they've shown that other sorts of things, right? But you get that player, you trade because you've seen this, all right? Now, here's the thing. What players are off the ice is also a part of how they're valued. Okay? If there were a player, as a coach with coaching staff on my NHL team, who was a consistent 40 goal scorer, okay, but had issues with Russians, and let's say one of the assistant coaches is homosexual, and that 40 goal scorer who shows up time and time again also, right, refuses to talk or listen to that assistant coach because that assistant coach is homosexual, then fuck the 40 goal scorer. We will do without. Thank you very much. Get the fuck out of my goddamn hockey club. We may not be able to this season find another 40 goal scorer to fill that spot, but anybody is better than that. Think about that. What you see, fans, is a 40 goal scorer. What you don't see is how they treat other people, how they respond to coaching, how they respond to correction. And no fucking way am I going to have a hater who refuses to talk to one of the assistant coaches on my fucking team for any amount of money, even if that player came to me for free. Think about that. Of course, I'm going to get ignored, as per usual. But one day, hopefully, somebody stumbles across this. And as a fan, you stop and try and realize that what you see on ice is only a part of how NHL players are valued. That is a whole, true, real statement, and you cannot, with any good information that is also true and correct, prove me wrong. Okay? Each team, okay, a player is going to have a different value. One team might look, like I said, they're like, well, I mean, all we need is a good 200-foot blah, 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 and we're going to be playoff contenders. And they might take player A because player A is going to have more value to them than player B has to my franchise. And they might be willing for a short period of time to put up with those negative personality. But I guarantee you, okay, the second they can find a replacement, that one's going to be gone too. Meanwhile, player B is constantly growing in value until they hit, right, for my franchise, because decent human, decent person to be around, has a positive attitude. He's enthusiastic. He wants to learn. He asks questions. He's, somewhat social, even if he's shy, still somewhat social with the guys. And all he needs to do is concentrate on his 200-foot game. Player B has more value for my franchise than player A does. True story. So, to Paulie and all my friends over there, we talk online. Oh, I know it's a business. Okay? But it's a business filled with human beings. And player A may have 200 game, and some of his skills fit well with the hockey vision that we're trying to build and do. But those other characteristics are not likely to change. And if he's going to be chirping at the assistant coaches, okay, and great, and player B is not, and we have a little bit of time to work on player B in the 200-foot game, player B has more value than player A. What you see on ice is only a portion of how players get valued in the NHL. And every NHL team will see that player as having a different value to them. True story. Plus, I don't work for the club. And so I have very little say as to what Mr. Cheveldayoff does. Okay? What I can do is just try and root for them. Like, I'm still rooting for Nyquist. Come on, Nyquist, score a goal. Score a goal, Nyquist. Come on, Hattie for Nyquist. Hattie for Nyquist, everybody. Hattie for Nyquist. Hattie for Nyquist. Okay? I mean, Nyquist scores a goal. That's good for the team. And that might open him up so that he feels like, oh, I can score more goals. Anything I can do to try and build a little confidence or spark up a player. I can't go to games live. So I can't be in the arena yelling somebody's name real loud. Okay, so I will cheer on the team whether they're making the playoffs or not. I'm not going to get frustrated. I'm not going to get miserable. I'm not going to get angry. I might wish that I had some say in some of my, hockey prowess and human knowledge. I know I'm a people watcher. I'm a behaviorist. I understand a lot about human beings that not too many people do. And most particularly, people who are involved with the National Hockey League, because I've been studying it for 40 years. Okay? But aside from that, I'm just going to cheer the guys on ice on. Because that is something I can do. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm still rooting for a Hattie for Nyquist. Done deal. Okay? There's no point getting angry. It doesn't help anything. It really doesn't. I can be a little disappointed when you know that there are certain players who put in a group like this group lost games they shouldn't have. Okay? So I can be a little disappointed as a fan. But and you know what else I can do? I can also cheer on uh, Mr. Cheveldayoff and the management crew for, you know, making some kind of miracle trade. You know, like really hitting the jackpot right before the trade deadline for the Winnipeg Jets. I can cheer that on too. Okay? So I'm going to be annoyingly positive. My life has been shortened by a great deal. I'm almost 54. I'll be 54 on Monday. And there's no way I'm going to see the age of 70 people. Let's all just learn to accept that you will pass away. Okay? This is adults. This is mature people. I'm not afraid to pass away. You understand? It's not negative. It's truth. I'm not going to hide from the truth of the fact that, yes, so, you know, I'm playing the back nine of my life. You understand what I'm saying? I'm on the second in miles to go before we sleep, if you know that Robert Frost poem. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, right. You understand? Right. I mean, if I reach the age of 60, I'm going to be in some seriously bad shape. And I likely will not be able to walk on my own. I likely will not be able to eat on my own. So I'm just going to enjoy the 82 games I get every season. And as far as I'm concerned, it's a bonus to me if they make the playoffs. Just sit with that. Think about that. It is another reason that I do support death with dignity. You may not want to think about it, but unfortunately, it is a reality. And it's best to be prepared for it. I don't have a caregiver. My whole family's dead. Not a single one of you are going to stop me from loving the ice hockey no matter what you do. Go Jets. Hattie for Nyquist.